People run for different reasons: social, mental, recreational, fun, fitness, competitive. For me, it's always been competitive. At first we just run because we're good at it, but then it becomes something we have to do because we enjoy it. We enjoy the grind, pushing ourselves every day, seeing how far, seeing how fast we can go. But it takes a while for us to get to that level. Even the elite started as amateurs. This is my running journey so far. How's it going, guys, and welcome to part 1 of my running journey so far. So this is a 4-part series where I'll be taking you guys through how I became the athlete that I am today. I'll be taking you through some of the highlights in my career and the lowlights. So let's get into this series. So I started out, as most young Australian athletes do, by starting Little Ass. So I did that when I was in prep because I loved running, I loved athletics in general really, but my favourite events were always the running ones, especially the long distance races. But I guess at that age you always want to be the fastest, so I did enjoy the 100 metres. Getting to be the fastest kid is pretty cool, so I always enjoyed doing Little Ass. No matter what event it was, I enjoyed it, but especially the long distance events. And at my school, you didn't get to do cross country until you were in grade 3. So when grade 3 came around, I was super excited to take part in the cross country. I had done a couple of runs around the block with my dad just to kind of get ready for cross country, but I hadn't really done any serious training. And in year 3, you have to verse the year 4s. So I was versing kids that were a year older than me, and I managed to come 3rd overall. Got outkicked by 2 kids in the finishing straight of the cross country race. So I made it through to district, and then at district I managed to come 3rd in that as well. Got outkicked again in the final straight by 2 kids and made it to division. So at division I was going to this really terrified, didn't think that I would have any hope of making it through to region. I was pretty nervous, and when the gun went off, it's pretty fast start because it's like a bottleneck. That course we did it on at Roughy Lake Park. I'm sure most runners from Melbourne who are watching this will know Roughy Lake Park. It's very, very hilly for the most part of it. So it was a tough course. There was one hill that was absolutely brutal. It was straight vertical, and that really kind of destroyed the field. But I really kind of thrive on hills. I love doing hills, and that's like my strength in cross-country races. So I've always been good at hills, even since year 3. So I caught a few kids up there and ended up coming 6th in that race, and I made it through to regionals, surprisingly, as a bottom age kid. And at regionals I was like, alright, surely this is the final race. I went into there thinking like, I doubt I'm going to get any further than this, because I was just seeing the kids that were around me on the start line. They were much bigger than me, they were older than me, they just looked more kind of professional than me. And at this point I wasn't training at all really. I was just doing footy, going for a couple runs around the block, and that was it. So at regionals I came 33rd, and I guess I was kind of happy with that, just the fact that I made it to regionals. But I guess not making it through to the next level was a bit disappointing, but it was also a bit expected. So I kept just doing footy for that winter, wasn't really running at all until summer came around and I started Little Ass again. And in Little Ass I had a really good season. I had a bit of a breakthrough season. So I've got some of my PBs here. So my PBs for the season were: for the 400 I ran 112, for 800 I ran 235 at state champs, for the 1100 I ran 1153, and at the time my 100 meter PB was 16.18. So it's funny that I can hold that for over 800 meters now. So I wasn't training for any distance in specific, but I guess I always knew that I was better at distance running, so that's kind of why I decided to sign up for the regional championships for 800 meters and the 200 meters. I don't know why, but I always enjoyed doing the 200 meters. It was a sprint, but it also required some endurance, so I always enjoyed doing the 200 meters. So at regionals, I made it to the final for the 200, and I think I came dead last in that race. And then in the 800, I made it through to state, so I came third in the race. I ran 2:45 off basically no training, and I remember that day it was about 37 degrees. It was boiling hot, and it was in the afternoon. It was like one of the last events of the day. I managed to scrape through with a big finish to make it through to state champs, and I was so happy. I was pumped. I guess making it to state when you're in year 4, it seems like a pretty big deal. So that was at the start of year 4, at the end of our summer. And after that, I decided that it was time to get a coach, and my dad signed me up for training. So I started training with SAS Track and Steve Ellinghouse, my coach, and from that, I really improved. Like, the improvement just came straight away from training. All the kids were older than me pretty much. There were 2 or 3 kids that were my age. Most of the kids were older than me, and they were a lot taller as well, so I felt like I was kind of the young in the group, I guess. But I instantly improved, and like about 3 weeks later, I ran at state champs and came 6th in the 800, and I ran 2:35. So that was like really good for a year 4. Like, at the time, like, I didn't really know anyone who had gone faster than that besides the kids who beat me in the race. So like, I was thrilled with that. So to run that fast was just like a huge deal. I was so excited with that race. I remember it was really hot. It was a tough race, but things just went well. I ran well off the back of 3 weeks of training with my squad. And then after state champs, I continued training with my squad just once a week on Wednesdays. And I was training well. I was enjoying the sessions and really getting into running. And I was training pretty consistently every week. But on top of this, I was also doing cricket and footy. So footy came around, and that kind of obviously had a bit of an impact on running, but at the time I guess it was a bit of a positive impact because you do a lot of running in footy, which definitely benefited my fitness, and I definitely improved for the cross-country season. So coming into the season, I was determined to make it to state champs. After making it to regionals and coming 33rd the year before as a bottom age, I was certain that I could make it through to state as a top age kid with training. So I was really, really excited, confident going into the season. So cross-country season started with house cross-country, and I won that. I won the school cross-country, and went on to district where I won that as well, and that was awesome, winning district cross-country. That seemed like a pretty big achievement at the time. And then division cross-country, I came 3rd to Flynn Cocky and Oscar Dunn, I believe. I'm pretty sure they were 2 beat me. Flynn ended up making it through to nationals and came 6th that year, so I had a pretty good division, I guess. And that was at Roughy Lake Park again. Tough course, had the tough hill in it, and I made up some ground on that, and that was kind of my strong point in the race, where I kind of made my move and got into a good position, and then held on to come 3rd. I made it through to regionals, and then regionals was the Yarra horse track where it had been the year before, and that is one of the worst cross-country courses you can run at. It is tough, but it's like a proper cross-country course, I guess, even though it's on a horse track. You know, cross-country courses are meant to be difficult. They're, you know, muddy and stuff, and it is definitely wet and muddy, and it's real thick grass, and it's just a real brutal, slow course, but you have to work real hard, and it seems like it's taking so long because you're just doing a big lap of the horse track. And in the race, I remember it was myself and 2 of my training partners at the time, Johnny and Matt, and 3 of us. We started on the start line together, and when the gun went off, I remember Johnny fell over and got spat out to the back of the field, and I remember I got out to a pretty good spot in the field up towards the front and settled in in a pretty decent spot in about the top 15, and the top 12 made it through to state champs. So I was kind of watching the 12th person. He was pretty close to me, and making sure that I was in range. And at about the halfway point, I remember seeing my teammate, or my training partner, Johnny, go past me, and he had been dead last, and he flew past me, and he kept going all the way up to the leaders. And coming into the home straight, it was a bit of a sprint off, between everyone to make it through the states. We were pretty spread out though, so everyone was people just coming from nowhere, passing each other, and I ended up coming 7th and made it through the state champs, and that was a huge achievement. I was so pumped to make it through the states. And after regionals, my coach went away to Europe I think it was to go watch a race or something, and he gave us a training plan to follow. So I was doing solo training, going out to the park and doing the sessions that he'd given us, and I was following that most days. But since I was kind of one of the younger kids in the squad, it was just a general program for everyone to follow. So some of the sessions on there were pretty tough, and I wasn't following it completely because there were, sessions that were pretty packed weeks. Like, it was a packed program with, runs every day, and for a year 4, that's a lot. So I was just doing kind of like some of the stuff on the program, but I was improving, and through all this I was doing footy as well, still playing, and that was also helping my fitness. And then when states came around, I went into the race, nervous. I kind of calculated, well, it's 8 regions, I came 7th, so that would probably get me around, 56th. So I wasn't really expecting anything amazing from state champs. I was just happy to be there. And on the start line, I remember, getting the run down by the starter, the no pushing, no elbows. If anyone falls, kind of on the start line, then they might call it back. And hearing all that, you're kind of listening, but at the same time you're not, because you're so nervous, and there's just so many people, and you're kind of focusing on what's around you, and you're just taking it all in, and I just remember being really nervous. I can still remember it. It was a pretty sunny day, and there was tons of people on that starting kind of straight. And when the gun went off, it was a mad sprint. That was Bundura, where we do state cross country here in Victoria, is one of that start is just absolutely hectic. It is a mad sprint. I got out into a pretty good spot, and I ended up leading the race. So I led for about it would have been about 1,200 or 1,500 meters. I was up in the top 5. I never ran well in the cold, so I'd always wear long skins on the top or bottom, and I had them on the top. And I remember rolling my sleeves up, and as I did that, lost a bit of just rhythm, I guess, and a few kids passed me, and it was a race in about 8. There was about 8 of us kind of running together, and in the end I got out kicked and came 6th, and only the top 5 made it to nationals. So it was the first person, Kane Marriott, he won it, and he ran 7:07 or 7:06, I think, and I came 6th with 7:11. So it was a really tight race. 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th were all within a second of each other, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, just missed out on nationals. And I just remember I was absolutely dead. I've never been that cooked after a race before. That was the hardest I've ever run in my life, to this day. And that was just brutal. I was coughing that dry cough, and when you swallow, then that makes you cough even more. And I just remember being absolutely dead. I was really blurry, I was just out of it. And then they took the top 7 of us into a tent, and they sat us all down and came around and took our photos, and we had to fill in these sheets. And while we were doing that, our parents were all outside the tent getting talked to by the Team Vic, kind of official person, who was telling them about nationals and what would happen if we got selected and stuff. So the top 5 were automatically qualified, and then 6, me, and 7th, the other kid, we were the emergencies. So we started to sign out the sheets and all that, and I remember just sitting there just shaking because I was that tired and exhausted. I couldn't write properly because I was cold and everything. And I remember filling out that sheet, and I remember at the time at first I didn't know what to think. I was kind of happy, and coming 6th at the time was 6th in the state is amazing, but then when you realise you don't make nationals, I was real disappointed. And I was pretty disappointed for the rest of that day, and then going to school the next day, I was pretty I was a bit more upbeat, I guess, because everyone was oh, 6th, that's amazing. So I was pretty happy with that, I guess. It took a while to kind of sink in though how good 6th is, but I guess to this day that's still a bit of a regret, kind of, I guess, well, not a regret, but I guess a disappointment, coming 6th and missing out on nationals by 1 spot is pretty tough. But things move on, and we kept going, kept training, and track season came around, and I was really excited to have my first school track season. So I did the 800 meters and the 200 meters at district. I won both events, won the 4x100 as well, and then at division, I won the 800 and I think I might have came third in the 200. I didn't win that. And our 4x100 team. So I got the baton in 6th and managed to run down every team except for the first team. I got them on the line, but we missed it by like 0.001. So I guess, at the time I had a pretty good sprint, but now I'll get destroyed by any other like sprinter in my age group. Yeah, so won the 800 and qualified for regionals for the 200. So at regionals, I remember it was a stinking hot day. I had the 200 heat in the morning and I somehow qualified to the final, but I didn't even know that until about half an hour or an hour before the final. And then 800 meters was around lunchtime, and in my race I had flintcocking, Benjamin Purser, and I think it might have been Oscar Dunn. I'm not sure. I know that he was like in my division and region, but I'm not exactly sure about that. And I managed to win the race, so I had a pretty good finish and outkicked some kids at the end. Not sure if I've got any footage of that, but yeah, managed to win that in a sprint finish and qualified for state champs. So at states, I was, kind of ready for redemption. I really wanted to have a good run there after missing out on nationals for cross country. I've been dreaming about making nationals, and I was excited going into the race because I was the fastest seed time, so I was really confident that I had a good chance of winning.
Be that way. Then comes a time that you're ridden with doubt. You bluffed all you can and now you're all loved out. Ooh, baby, we've been a long, long way. And who's to say where we'll be tomorrow?
Finished in 10th, so I was so disappointed. I was crying after the race. I was really upset about that. Hadn't qualified for nationals, and someone from my squad, who was my training partner at the time, Jasper, he came second and qualified for nationals. So I guess that made it even harder, knowing that someone who I was training with and I was just as good as had qualified, but I hadn't been able to qualify on the day. So that was pretty tough. They only ran a second faster than my PB. So, well, the winner, at least, I think third ended up running a second slower. So definitely could have made it through if I had a good day. So I was really disappointed with that, and it was pretty tough, missing out on 2 nationals, kind of choking in the end. And like since then, I've always kind of finished my races pretty strong. I've kind of worked on my kicks so that I don't get out kicked kind of because of those reasons. So that was pretty tough, but kept training with my squad, kept working hard, and I guess kind of learned from that some valuable lessons. I learned from my mistakes, I guess. So obviously I was really disappointed to not make nationals that year, but I'd come a long way from the start of the year. I'd gone from not training at all with a coach to finding a coach and a squad and improving heaps over the 800 meters, shaving like 10 seconds off from when I started with my coach to the end of the year, which is a heap of time. I was one of the best runners in the state for my age at the time, which was pretty awesome. And looking back on it, I'm pretty happy with kind of those bad races because you can learn from them. You got to learn from your mistakes, and I guess having those bad races, it makes the good ones even better. Knowing that you have to really work hard for it, knowing that it's not just you don't just take it for granted. I guess knowing how it feels to have a bad race and feeling sad after it, and it makes you just want the good races even more. It makes you want to really run hard and train hard. It's good motivation, I guess. Good fuel for the fire. So I guess at the start of year 4 and in year 3, I wasn't really that passionate about my running, which is something that I was good at, but it wasn't something that I kind of saw myself doing. I was still fully invested in footy and always thought that I'd grow up to play in the AFL. That was my goal. I wanted to play in the AFL. But I guess when I started with my coach and when I realised that I had a talent and I was really good at it, it became something that I wanted to do more. I got more motivated, and I guess in life, when you're good at something, it makes you, you want to do it more. You're you got more motivation to do it because you know you're doing well at it and you enjoy it more. So I came a long way in those couple of years. I was pretty happy with where I was at, and I really had kind of like fallen in love with running, but I still was doing footy, still was doing cricket. I wasn't really doing the 1%ers for running, but I definitely found a passion for running. So thanks for watching part 1 of my running journey so far, and I'll see you for part 2. See ya.
Your crew look nervous. Yo, gang came from the circus. Yo, I never ever make no earnings. Pull up with the German. Your crew look nervous. Yo, gang came from the circus. Yo, I never ever make no earnings.